This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
Live chicken.
Yeah, for some extra power. Welcome back.
So glad that's where I hit record. Glad.
Shine's looking for some extra power tonight. He's looking to sacrifice a live chicken.
My God.
What?
Nick, have you seen Major League?
No. Not in a while. Maybe I have, or just haven't. In like 20
Like
years.
Nick hasn't seen a lot of movies.
That is true. That is a true fact. I didn't start watching movies until like 2008, really. Like,
we could do a whole segment of movies that are popular, and Nick will probably have not seen.
You
yeah.
trying
most
to tell
of them.
me Jesus Christ can't score a goal?
Yeah, and then I went on like a huge torrenting, downloading bit of like just watching all
Allegedly.
the movies. Yeah, allegedly. This is back in the past.
Allegedly.
I think the what is it called? The time of, right? There's so much time in between the crime that it's forgiven, right? No?
Allegedly. We
Somebody-
did hit record.
Somebody got some letters somewhere.
The annexation of Puerto Rico?
Good Lord.
Let's get on with this Liberation Day.
Jesus.
That's all my work is talking about right now.
This recording is going to be as unhinged as I thought it was going to be. All right.
That's what happens when we come in without a plan.
Oh, there's always a plan.
Always a plan. Even when we create a plan, it's a pretty loose plan.
Until I get on.
Plan B.
This is like plan H, bro.
Preparation H.
When you're flying by the seat of your pants, there's always time for a plan B. All right, I'll stop. I'm sorry. Nick probably doesn't know what movie that's from either.
No shot.
Never heard of that movie.
Anyways.
All right.
You guys good now? Are you sure? You sure? You settled?
You're talking to me or Trav?
I said you guys.
As good as I'm going to be. I was at this game and yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Short memory.
I was trying to think of what I was going to say for the cold open, and I already forgot it. This is great. Why is this always on me? When do you guys come up with something? Jesus.
So in Friends, you know, when Chandler starts smoking again, and Monica's like, "You're smoking?" And he's like, "Well, yesterday I was smoking again. Today I'm smoking still." Does that mean the Griffins like still suck?
I don't know if we can open with that one, buddy.
Well, last week we sucked, but this week we're sucking still. Sorry, I tried.
It was fucking funny.
I was like, where is this going?
I
I've never
didn't
heard
have
of
a
this show.
clue.
You said Friends?
Oh, God. My life. It's my
Totally
life.
7. Okay.
Well,
I'm still stuck on what Travis said. I'm sorry. It
well,
was so
I got
well
one.
placed.
I'm just gonna say, like, I'm like so slap happy right now that like this. I'm sorry. So
It's gonna be
Brandon,
great.
just be prepared.
It's gonna be great.
So
I'll tell you who wasn't great: the Griffins.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Nick, let's let Nick have his moment here. Goddamn.
Before I forget it, Jesus. So this week, Yad Bednar started a game, got sent to Toledo, and got turned right back around to Grand Rapids and wished he was in Toledo because where he played was a lot better.
I mean, yeah, he was in Florida, so you got to go play in beautiful Florida and not get lit up by the Texas Stars. This is going to be a fun episode, folks. There's only one Griffins game to talk about, and it wasn't pretty. It was ugly. But we're going to fill the episode with some other stuff, too, to make it fun. So welcome back to the Hockeytown West podcast, your source for everything Grand Rapids Griffins and Toledo Walleye hockey. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis.
And as we said right there in the intro, the Griffins have only played one game since we recorded last, which for this late in the season is super weird. They had a full week off after their Wednesday game. They don't play again until this coming Wednesday, which is probably a day after this episode will come out to everybody. That's a weird break to have this late in the season, right?
I think it's needed for this team right now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this break could do us well, or it could set us back. This team struggles with coming out of breaks sometimes, man. It makes me nervous. Like every time we've had a couple days off or a week off in the middle of the season, that first game back is not pretty. And to avoid the play-in round, as we call it, which is the first round of the AHL playoffs, which is a best of 3 essentially, it's scary. Every game matters still right now. And I don't like a long break in there, but maybe they do need it. Who knows? Who knows?
They clinched a playoff spot while they were on break.
They did, which is, thank God that happened. And that's the one nice thing Ben Simon's done for this team in a couple of years. With the Iowa Wild losing Saturday night, the Grand Rapids Griffins have clinched a playoff spot. They've not locked down their seating in the division yet. They're still sitting third right now with Chicago right behind them, but they're in. They're in the dance. That's the first step. We're all very happy about that. There's no nerves here at all about what's upcoming for this team. But before we dive into all of that, right, we have a game to talk about. We'll update you on the standings. We're going to talk about some roster changes and what might or might not happen still has kind of been the speculation over the past few weeks. We're going to talk about some stats over what the last few months have looked like for this Griffins team. What have the last 3 months looked like in the second half of the season, because we know the team started off so hot. And we'll tell you, if you're looking for happy, cheery stats, they're not. So before we dive into all that, though, I want to ask the boys how they're each doing today, because Nick, it was crazy here in West Michigan yesterday. Tornado sirens, crazy weather, who the heck knows? Travis, weather's been crazy down there for you too, but how are you guys doing?
It was good to have a little bit of a break, you know? This no hockey Friday, Saturday. For me, I needed the break, so it was good. And yeah, crazy tornado warnings, but it was probably, well, our side of town didn't really get hit, you and I's. It was more south.
No.
And then like way a little bit north. So but I was a tad nervous. I saw the storm coming through and I was like, Maria, like we got hit with a tornado just 2 years ago. Like it could touch down here again. So be alert, be ready. So we were watching the news and it passed us. It was a little bit norther, but last day of the month in my industry, it's always crazy, you know, and these tariffs are going to be interesting coming forward for my industry. So yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting.
Oh God. Yeah, that is right though. That tornado 2 years ago was very, very close to you. Luckily it didn't hit you. And just to any listeners, any of these affected areas, whether you're in northern Michigan with these crazy ice storms, if you boys haven't seen it, there's like half an inch of ice on the ground everywhere from Gaylord north pretty much. It looks like a war zone in most of those cities from just trees breaking from ice. Like people sharing videos walking around and these trees are just snapping. It sounds like gunshots every time they do it. It's insane. So hope all of our listeners are safe and no damage and all that. And if you have experienced any of that, our thoughts go out to you. Trav, what about you? How's everything down there in Northern Ohio?
You guys got a break, huh?
We did.
Must be nice. No, it was good. Golfed on Saturday. Head of this trip coming up. Yesterday was complete washout. So kind of opposite of yesterday. We went from almost 70 to around 40 today. That's, you know, typical Ohio weather in the spring. Somebody at work said they cut their grass on Saturday, so that was quite an interesting conversation this morning at work. But other than that, pretty good.
Early.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Well, I mean, it is almost April, but
It's true.
no, just no break for me next week.
No, the Toledo Walleye had a crazy weekend, big matchup that we will talk about later this week in our Toledo Walleye episode there, but I'm sure you have all seen the results. It was fun. It was exciting to see those two teams go up against each other. I can't wait to dive into it with Travis there. But let's dive into the Grand Rapids Griffins. Let's start with just roster updates and news. Obviously, as we said in the intro there, Jan Bednar back in Toledo. We don't know what that'll look like when the Griffins go back into action, if we will see them recall him. We don't really know what's going on with this goalie situation. We haven't seen Jack Campbell play a game for quite a while, and we've asked questions, and we don't know answers. So that's where we'll leave that there. Sebastian Cossa was resent back to Grand Rapids from Detroit, so that's a nice positive there as well to have Coast back in GR for their upcoming schedule. Austin Watson, Dominic Shine still with the Detroit Red Wings. Obviously, everyone saw Austin Watson drop the gloves on Saturday night versus Boston in a fantastic tilt, which we haven't been able to see Waddy do much of down here lately with that one-game suspension looming over his head if he fights again. So a lot of pent-up aggression was released by him in that fight, I feel like, and it kind of sucks for the other guy that he had to take probably, 2 months of pent-up fighting aggression from Austin Watson there. But, that was a good fight.
I cannot wait till I'm hoping he's back in the lineup for Wednesday's game so we can ask him about this fight, because I feel like it's been so long since he's been able to just let him go, get out some rage, get out some fire, and like just beat the crap out of some guy. And that Saturday night, right? Yeah, Saturday night against Boston, just going to town on this guy. I really hope he's back so we can ask him about this. Are you good? How are you feeling? I mean, maybe Friday or Saturday.
We won't see him till playoffs.
Don't tell me that.
Well, here's what I'll preface that with. I'm gonna just say the big thing out loud here. Austin Watson should have been in Detroit a lot of this season. He's a lot of what that team was missing this season. And as thankful as we are to have him here in Grand Rapids, because we know what a leader he is on and off the ice, Detroit could have used a guy like him for pretty much this entire season.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why they called Shine up too earlier, to just kind of get that fighting, that little aggression, the guy with the chip on his shoulder kind of thing, and just Shine hasn't been doing it up there, being aggressive and fighting people. So you call up Waddy.
It's not really his role anymore.
Yeah,
he's really kind of grown past that.
You always have it in you if you have it in you.
I mean, he's dropped him a couple times with the Wings so far, so he's still got it in him. But we know that Austin Watson knows his role with that team, and he fulfilled that role quite nicely in that game. So always happy to see him up there, and everyone knows like what a person and leader he is, and you can just see he's that spark on the bench that they needed. So happy for him. Want him back here in GR as soon as possible. Always happy when the guys get the opportunity with the big club, right? We're not here for that, unfortunately, in Grand Rapids. You don't want to see the guys here forever. So to get that shot, good for him. Outside of that, though, no other roster updates and news to talk about with the Griffins. No other signings, unfortunately, to talk about. No other transactions with guys coming from overseas as Skellefteå advanced to the next round of the playoffs here. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Whoa. I know us Griffins fans are selfishly rooting against them. Sorry. But at the same time, you understand why. Those two players that we're referencing with them, their talent's unbelievable, and it would be a great addition to the Grand Rapids Griffins. But let's dive into this Texas game, right? This is going to be a tough one to talk about because, one, you're facing the best team, one of the hottest teams in the American League right now, and the best team in this division. And you kind of hoped you would see more fight from the Griffins in this one. They dropped this game 4-0. And Texas, credit to them, they outplayed us up and down the ice. Their puck movement was insanely good. Their speed, they killed us with it. And this, again, at least in this game, it wasn't the same four guys just lighting us up. A couple of those guys got points, obviously, but other guys for Texas actually found the back of the net that aren't named Matej Blumel, Artu Huru, and whoever else that we want to talk about that they have that is incredibly talented. But Nick, you were at this game. Just the overall thoughts and from your perspective, because I unfortunately couldn't make it to this one. don't dive too deep into it, but just your overall thoughts into this one.
Yeah, so going into Wednesday's game, we had a chance to clinch a playoff spot, and all we had to do was win. And then I think Chicago had to lose. And I kind of figured that the guys were going to be coming out with a lot of fire, a lot of pep, ready to go right off from the puck drop. And hey, we're going up against the best. We don't have the target on our back anymore. We're not number one. Like, we're going to go out and come out flying. You also, which we forgot to mention, is Emmett Finney's first game back for this season. So you get him in the lineup. You can finally go for a full 12-6 for that night. And they come out flat. There was no jump. There was no compete. There was no heart. There was no, like, it was like, hey, we've got, you're, when you're at work and you're like, hey, I got vacation tomorrow. It's the last day. I got to work today, and then I'm going on vacation for the next week. Like, that was kind of what it looked like, which I know it wasn't true because they had practice the next day. So, like, nobody had plane trips or vacations or anything booked. Like, they were practicing. They had skills tests or skills practice the next day. So I don't know what happened, like why they just came out as flat as they did. It was mind-blowing to me. 5 shots in the first period. I mean, to Texas's 13. Just absolutely wild.
Nick, I'm glad you brought up the first period. For the YouTube viewers, they can see this here. If you're interested in what we're talking about, just head over to YouTube if you're just listening and check out what we're talking about at this point in the show.
Hit subscribe.
This was the shot chart for the first period. And you look at the Griffins' 5 shots, and there's no danger to any of these shots. And you look at the other end of the ice with what Texas was doing, they were all over the ice. And look where their goal was scored in the first there, too. One of the most dangerous spots on the ice.
And if you're not following, if you're on YouTube, we are the blue dots here on the left side.
Well, yeah, that was kind of, I think, apparent when we said they only had 5 shots and there's only 5 blue dots. Yeah, this isn't
to the
good.
outer side. Just like you got 3 of them on the outside of the face-off, and 1 at the blue line, and then 1 in the face-off circle on the left side. For you guys that are listening, it's just, yeah, it was pitiful.
You go into the second period,
it got a little better.
It does
but
get
not
better.
Great.
No, they still only had really 2, as we talked about in last week's Griffins episode. You referenced the house, right? The dangerous spots in the ice that you want to be shooting from. There's only really 2 shots from that spot. Everything else is basically a point shot. That's not great. But you look at the other end of the ice, they did a better job of clearing the house for Texas, but there's still too many high danger opportunities right around the front of the net. One of those resulting in a goal. Then you go to the third period. Again, Griffin's a little better. A couple high danger opportunities there. Good at clearing Texas out of one side of the ice. They just shoved them to the other. But I wanted to pull it up again because I want to consistently start doing this more. As Nick, you pointed this out last week and brought up just how bad the Griffins' one game looked against Rockford on this shot chart. I want to start using this more on the show just to kind of show these examples and see if we can start seeing improvement in some of these areas. There's so limited stats in the American League that you kind of just have to use the tools you have. So this is really the best tool we have to show us where a lot of these opportunities are coming from or lack thereof. But again, Texas, again, credits to them. They were the significantly better team in this game overall. I do want to look at a couple of the Texas goals here and kind of talk just through what I saw. Because again, we were looking for that effort, right? You're looking for that spark, like you can clinch a playoff spot, right? And I want to pull up the first Texas goal here because this one as soon as I saw this goal happen, I felt like game was over from that point. You got 2 D-men up on the far left there or right, depending on which way you're looking at the ice. And Texas is able to just walk right through. Nice pass through the neutral zone there. And they just walk in back. That's a bad goal. It's a bad goal on all sides. I think that's one that Jan probably wants back. But in that situation, he's hung out to dry. There's nobody to support him in that situation there whatsoever.
Yeah, just a bad. And that puck, if I remember correctly, it took a weird bounce from that outside to get through into there. It
does take a weird bounce off the boards there to get back into the center. But at the same time,
3 guys. It beat 3 of the guys there.
Well, that point I really want to make in this too is like, why are 2 of our defensemen right here on top of each other? And this is something that I wanted to call out a lot. Watching the Griffins over the past couple of weeks, we're playing on top of each other so much more than I've ever seen before. It's 2 to 3 guys going for the puck in one spot, and if it happens to take a weird bounce and goes the other way, which Vandal has some lively boards, it can take some weird bounces. When they're all on top of each other like that, you're just setting yourself up for these exact scenarios where a guy can walk right around 2 defensemen trying to get back and just backhand one over your goalie's shoulder. Not ideal. I'm not even going to bother pulling up the other 3 Texas goals here. We're not going to go through the scoring and who scored them. If you want to see that, look at the stat sheets. This is just a frustrating game overall. This is one that, if you wanted to make a statement against the best team in the Central, this was the game to do it. They did not show up. Now, again, yes, they got Emmett Finney into the game. The roster was actually full, at least, to put a full roster of players out there. It still is a very depleted team. You're missing a lot of spark. Maybe not the most talented players on the team. Granted, Austin Watson was on a 4-game scoring streak before he got called up. You might not be missing your most talented players, but you're missing the guys who provide that spark, that oomph. Let's go, boys. Let's get going here. And that's taken a toll on this team recently. But I do want to talk about Finney, because if you've listened to the show long enough, you look at near the end of last season, heading into the postseason, Emmett Finney ended up in some games, and we were all like, what's going on here? Like, this, he's got a lot of room to grow, right?
He looked like a 7th round pick, to be honest.
or a free agent at that point, undrafted free agent. Like, let's be real. But then we also kind of learned that he might not have been prepared to jump in at that point, and due to injuries on the team, had to step in. And when you think about playing that full junior season and you're prepared to come to Grand Rapids and observe and learn the pro life, and you're going back to junior next year, and then you get tossed in, you're like, okay, I could see how we got the results of that. But granted, first game back with Grand Rapids in this game, in a tough battle, he looked like the player he looked like in junior this season. He looked more complete. He didn't look lost. He was able to keep up with the pace of play. He wasn't getting out-muscled left and right. I think he's going to take some games to get comfortable, yes, but looks already better than what we saw last year for those couple of games.
Yeah, I never want to judge anybody until they get like 10, maybe 10 games in. And unfortunately, I just don't think we have that many games to be able to give them on this either. We're at the end of the season. There's only 4 home games left, I believe, 4 or 5. And I don't think there's a whole lot of away games either. So hopefully he's able to kind of come in, adjust. I think the other problem too, and like you had mentioned, is Detroit has a lot of our guys. It's a lot of those, like those spark guys, Shai, Watson,
Elmer.
Elmer. I mean, those are the guys that are in the locker. Like, I don't know how Elmer is in the locker room, but I know Watson's one of those guys in the locker room. That's, you're gonna listen, you're gonna look up to him. It's Shine as well, just based off of his tenure of being here. So it definitely sucks when those guys are up there. It's great for them. Like, we're happy for them. It's just this team like just doesn't have that guy to come in and be like, okay, let's go, guys. Benny, I think Benny played well. He was out there for 2 of the goals, so that's not great. But he's also, this is the first place team, Texas. First game this season against them. So he was out there with 2 guys that he's ever played with Hannes and Becker. He may have played maybe a little bit with Hannes last year at the end, but he's never played with Becker, and Becker's never played with him. So I'm like, and there's a language barrier we both know with Becker. So trying to communicate with Finney. So like, you throw that in there, it's he just got here last week too, so it's trying to adjust again. I'm not gonna. It was a bad team game overall, so I'm not gonna put anything on Finney.
No, God, no. And that's definitely not where I was going with it too. It's just like, I'm happy. I'm much happier with the Emmett Finney I saw in this game than I saw in those games last year where he got thrown in. And I think that you're going to see him progress and develop quite nicely in this league.
He'll ramp up.
I do not believe he's going back to, I know he's eligible to go back to juniors next year, but I do not believe he's going. I think that's pretty much all but confirmed now. So it'll be fun to watch him grow, and it is a nice piece to get in. And if he does get comfortable and starts lighting it up, that's a huge bonus for us. But I don't expect him to blow the doors down every game, but also you don't really want to notice him by making mistakes. Like if I go through the game and I'm like, I didn't really notice Emmett Finney right now for these next 3-4 games. I'm like, that's a good game for Emmett. I didn't notice him do anything egregious that's going, oh God, what are we doing? It's
Like
kind of like how
year.
it's kind of like where Anton came in and you're like, okay, if I don't notice him that much, he's going to make mistakes as a young defenseman. But if I don't notice him much, great, this is good. And he's been pretty decent so far. Mistakes here and there. But speaking of Anton, there's a highlight in this game of Anton that we've got to talk about, right? Because Anton said he likes to hit people. Anton leveled this man. And that's
Leveled.
like, we haven't seen much of his play, right? We didn't watch a lot of his play overseas. Him telling us he likes to hit, I'm like, okay, bud, that's good. I like that you like to hit. Now we've seen a hit. Okay, he can hit. So it's good stuff from Anton so far. It's been fun to watch.
He's going to be like your Nicholas Cronwell type player. He's going to have those big hits. He's going to provide a little bit of offense. I just wish he was a little bit more defensively sound.
It's so early, though. It's so early.
It is. And I think I can't wait to see him next season, if that makes sense. Like, this is his, like, tryout period, I guess you could say, of him trying to adjust to the North American ice and the speed and physicality of this league. I think next year will be I'm hoping next year will be a lot different for him, a lot better.
I think it will. I think you'll see a lot of development even with the little bit we have left this season.
Yeah.
But, again, 4-0 loss to Texas. Credit to the Dallas Stars. Their pipeline's ridiculous. Travis, I know you have some stats around Texas you want to talk about.
Yeah, they got 3 guys that just seemingly are just, they're big name players. I mean, they'll start with Justin Ritzkovian. Yeah, so again, an unsigned player, like undrafted player, from what I can see, according to Elite Prospects, as NHL rights, Dallas Stars signed. You have Atu Hiru, again, undrafted signed player. And then there's Blumel. I mean, what a find, right? 2019 4th round pick. He's getting better every year. Imagine being able to give up Logan Stankoven and just be like, hey, guess what? We got 3 more in Texas that are just here and ready. And just goes to show draft and development is key. That's one thing I just wanted to point out, is that their ability to find players, that's a very, very key element in all this. And if you look at their breakdown of their roster as a whole, how many guys are on Texas deals, or not Texas deals, but Dallas deals, and then how many guys are on Texas deals, because there are quite a few guys that aren't even on Dallas Stars contracts on that team.
I'm so glad you drifted to that topic, because we're going to send it to an ad break, and I want to talk a little bit about that topic of signing some guys in the American League that might not be NHL contracts, because I think that's a topic that needs to be discussed when it comes to this Grand Rapids Griffins team. So quick ad break. When we come back, we'll dive into that.
This NHL season has been as predictable as a puck rolling on its edge. No one knows where it's going, but that just means there's time for your favorite team to figure things out. A game's left for you to get in the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And we're back. All right, Travis, you alluded to it, talked a little bit about it. I said it was a good point to transition to this part of the episode here. We've got to talk about players that have been signed. You know, we can sit here and hope and pray that ASP and MBN end up in Grand Rapids and that'll save everything. And it's the signings or lack thereof from Grand Rapids right now. You know, you kind of look around the league, you look at both the ECHL and the American League. There's college seasons ending every week right now, as Michigan State's did this past week. Sorry, Nick.
Wow. Wow. Way to rub it in. You know, I felt a little better when Michigan got bowed out from
Well, you
Auburn.
brought that up in an episode, so I had to bring it up again. Anyways, there's college signings happening left and right. Grand Rapids made a couple last year, and you'd kind of expect to see some. And granted, the college season's not over yet. Let me preface this with that. Things could change. Players could get signed still. Well, what we've kind of discovered when you look through these rosters is kind of the lack of signings made specifically for the Grand Rapids Griffins in comparison to other teams. Like we just talked about Texas and how many of their guys are Texas Stars contracts compared to a Dallas Stars contract. And we understand that, you know, the prospect pools change. Some teams have more, some teams have less. But there's really no signings for guys that you might hope stick around in Grand Rapids for a couple of years and be Grand Rapids Griffins, not just Detroit Red Wings players working their way up. And the lack thereof of these college signings towards the end of the year kind of irritates me. Like, where is the support to help kind of push this team? This team went through a whole weekend against the Rockford Ice Hogs, only being able to put 11-7 out there because that's all they had. Like, that's kind of embarrassing almost. And I know you both have some thoughts on this. And granted, we don't know what the back end of things looks like. We don't know what's happening behind the scenes. We don't know why there's a lack of signings. We don't know if there are some coming. We don't know. But what are your guys' just overall thoughts on kind of the lack of Griffins, I should say? Is that the right way to say it? I don't know.
Veterans?
Not even veterans, even the college players. Veterans, sure. But even the college players.
I'll go on a rant if I
Go ahead.
start with this.
Yeah. Go, Trap.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Let me roll out the carpet for you.
They've done a horrible job. I think they fumbled this badly. Like, there's three, like you say, there's still games left, Brandon. There's only 3 games left in the college season. Not
Between 4 teams, so you have 4 teams to pick from to hopefully get a guy.
which you have all these other schools with potential players that are just sitting there, and you see them going elsewhere. Like, and I don't say it just for the Toledo side. I mean, I say it just in general. Like, you got to have contracted players that you can kind of fill your own extra holes where you have them, as well as provide yourself your own organizational depth. Like, let's be real. Like, you look at a team like the Capitals organization, I think they have like 13 guys that are on AHL, NHL contracts with South Carolina. What does that give you? That gives you flexibility when guys get hurt in Washington and get called up from Hershey, that you can just call a guy up. And really, it shows how little depth there is through the Griffins part of the organization. Not so much the Red Wings. We know they have depth with their prospects going up. We get that. But you're not helping yourself, and that's what is really frustrating. Like, you have all these college kids become available, sign a couple, send them down, or play them in Grand Rapids. Like, you literally had to dress an extra defenseman because you didn't have enough forwards. Like, at some point, you got to help yourself out. Now, granted, we don't know who makes the signings, why they're not signing guys. I don't know. But to just bank on guys coming over, that's kind of a risky gamble. Like, and now you're seeing it with ASP and MBN. Like, they could potentially not be here for another month. And at that point, you're already into the playoffs. And now you have, it's not just the Griffins. You got, Toledo trying to make a cup run. The Griffins are trying to make a cup run. And you're hurting the depth of the whole organization from the American League down. I just think that you've seen them sign guys last year. Like, Hunter came back. Wasn't Banel a signing last year?
No, he was an off-season signing this year.
Off-season
Mansfield
signing.
and Seager were both off-season acquisitions.
So
So,
Hunter last year.
well, okay, so you got one last year, but like this year, there's just like, what are they doing? Like, what are you waiting on? Like, try to help yourself out. And I don't know why they're not.
It's frustrating. Like, when I look at it overall, like, I know Detroit's going to do what they got to do. I already said it before in the show. Stop calling guys up just for them to observe and sit. Like, I know we've seen Shine in a game recently. I know Watson's been in some games recently, obviously. You saw the Rafferty call up, which put us kind of in a interesting situation that weekend against Rockford as well, with a nice veteran defenseman who plays very well for the Griffins, going to Detroit and not playing. Like, they just kind of called them up to have an extra guy on the road trip, which I understand all that stuff. But when you're trying to be just a winning organization across the board, like when I think of the Capitals organization, like you brought up right now, I think of a winning organization. Look at the Washington Capitals and look what they've done this year. Look at Hershey. Look what South Carolina's doing this year. That's a winning organization. And I know Detroit's trying to make that push. I don't think it's worth making that push. I'm going to be honest. I'm sorry. It's not worth it. Because now you've got these two teams in the American League and the ECHL that are just struggling. At least Toledo is signing college guys that are coming in and producing. If you don't know what we're talking about, tune into one of the Toledo Walleye episodes we do. Some of their recent college signings are just constantly producing, and we understand the leagues are different. You can't tell me you can't go find a college guy for Grand Rapids that could come in here, maybe score 10 goals between now and the end of the playoffs. Those goals would be huge.
That'd probably be a tall order. I'd say maybe 4 or 5.
I was gonna say.
Well, I'm saying if we
don't
saying
have a
if
lot
we
of
go-
players that have hit 10.
Go a full run through the playoffs, right? Full run. Not just the
definitely think-
first round exit, but
I think there's options, but again, this goes back to there wasn't enough depth here in the beginning of the year. Like, they sent...
wasn't.
No. Because they didn't prepare... Nick, they didn't prepare themselves for when the call-ups from Detroit happened. You had Casper for a game. Then Elmer's getting called up middle of the season. Lagesson got called up. You mean to tell me there wasn't a couple guys out there that they could have also added? And then you could have sent guys down even further to Toledo on contracts. There's just so many options that they didn't do that now, like I said before, they have so many rookies that are playing up in the lineup to where if they would have filtered this a little bit better, you could have had your guys playing on the fourth line for the Griffins at the beginning of the year. They're moving up, and now you're not calling guys up to play up the lineup. I just
remember the Griffins had to sign Trenton Bliss to a contract, like with games already played this season, to get him to be called up to Grand Rapids. Like, that just tells you right there they weren't prepared.
There's just not enough they didn't sign enough players. And it's not even just college free agents. It goes back to the offseason of signing guys with AHL experience. Like, there's all kinds of guys throughout the American League that are on AHL deals that have played a couple seasons pro that aren't rookies that are producing elsewhere. I'm sure there's plenty of guys throughout the American League that are like that are on American League deals.
I think we've made it clear a couple of times too, like, you put a lot on these rookies and these young kids in this. The recipe for success in the American League is not what the Griffins roster is set up to, or what it was set up to be at the start of the season. Even that was not the recipe for success in this league. The recipe for success is a few rookies, a lot of AHL talent, and some prospects who are really talented, right? Like, look at the Hershey Bears. They haven't had blue chip prospects every single year, and they've gone on and done incredible things. So
They have a good coach too.
they do have a good coach. Todd Nelson is a great coach. Nothing against Dan Watson. I'm not blaming him in this, but I love Nelly. Nelly's a great coach. Miss him in GR. Would love to see them play each other once. That'd be great. Anyways, you're spot on, Travis. Like, the off season, it's just set up for failure. I mean, it was set up better than it has in the last couple of years. Like, I think of the first year when things changed over here and we weren't set up. It was the first year we started the show, and it was rough. But I also look at that year and go, how many guys did we have called up from Toledo and guys that were eligible to go back and forth like that? There was a lot. You know, you had Tatayev, you had Warad, you had Bliss, you had I can't remember them all. Sabrango, thank you. You had a couple more too, and
Craggs.
Barton.
Craggs was back. Barton.
both Craggs.
Yeah.
Barton. Yeah, there was a better setup there. And picking up the AHL talent too, Trav, you couldn't have said that any better, because I think we expect some more from some of the veterans on this team. And we've seen that last year. We expected more out of some of them last year who aren't with the team this year, and we didn't get a lot from them. And you expect some more out of some guys this season. And one of our most producing veterans outside of Snively and Dries, who we knew they were going to come in and produce, was Austin Watson, who was a last-minute addition to the organization. He was a training camp invitee signing, basically, by Detroit.
You know,
assigned here.
we should
What?
go back through the training camp roster and see where these players that we don't have, see it, where they went and how well they're doing. Just to see, like, we had the option. We didn't bring them over.
There wasn't a ton of invitees, though, in that. Not a ton.
Well,
There's a
we could at
couple.
least take a look, take a gander. But I'm sorry I cut you off. I'll let
No,
you
you're
finish your
good.
thought.
My final thought on that is it's just frustrating when you do see the teams like Texas and Milwaukee who somehow absorb these AHL talents that can be called up, sure, if they really need to, but they come into the AHL and they play consistent. Like, that relationship between Milwaukee and Nashville is so good. I just feel like maybe the Griffins isn't where it needs to be right now. I don't know.
Here's a guy.
Go ahead, Trav.
Trav was quick.
And I'll give my thoughts.
Perfect. Well, not from our training camp roster, but here's a guy that they could have pursued. He's playing with Cleveland. Rocco Grimaldi. You don't think the Griffins could have used a guy like that this year?
Oh, there's jokes
Brad-
about the Rocco Grimaldi effect.
I'm
Brandon's gonna kill you.
I'm just saying, like, 52 points, 58 games, 15 goals. That's just one name that comes to mind just because we've talked about Cleveland so much with some of our friends.
Yes, I agree with you, but he's also cursed.
I'm just
Like, Cleveland might miss the playoffs even with getting him and everything. Like, there's a curse that follows him. He was with Chicago during their really bad stretch there. And
I mean, he had
now
70
Cleveland's going through the same thing.
He had 73 points in 72 games. Granted, he was a minus 26 for Chicago, but still.
That team was bad, though. That was
I'm
their
just-
independent season.
I'm just saying, like, that's a player, and I'm sure there's more out there that have loads of AHL experience that's on an American League contract that this team could have definitely benefited from, and some of these younger players could have been in Toledo learning the pro game rather than just be thrown into a situation where it's like, okay, can they do it? Yes, but is it best for their development? Maybe not. Like, again, I know you say it's like curse and all that, but like, it's just a fair point that, like, look, that's a prime example of a player that's really good at this level, that's on an American League deal, having a great year.
No, he is a good example of that. Do you think if they would have made a couple more acquisitions like that, who do you think would have started the season potentially in Toledo on this team?
I guarantee Seager and Bannon would have been here all year. Like, now granted, Seager's had a big year, but again, he's been thrust into situations that had they maybe signed more guys long term for other options, it could have benefited players to be in Toledo. Like, I can remember, like, a couple years ago, like, for Toledo, we had like 4 guys that were our reserve for playoffs. Weren't even on the team. They were in the American League. Like, scattered throughout the American League. I know you guys had McKenzie the one year. Like,
Yep.
it filters down, right? Like, you're seeing it from Detroit, and I'm seeing it from you guys. Or I should say, we're seeing it from Detroit, and then I'm seeing it at another level from even Grand Rapids. Like, I just think that if they would have signed more guys with experience at the pro level in the summer, you could have eased some of these rookies in, and you could have had Johannes eligible down here. You could have had Seager, Banel, maybe even a Rykovsky just to get his feet wet, rather than just, here's the deep end, hope he can swim. And, like, there's just so many options. Like, even Emmett Finney, like, they could have sent him to Toledo after having a huge year in junior. Doucette was an undrafted free agent that played a whole season in Toledo. So, like, there's just so many options with these young players that, like, had they maybe signed a couple more bigger name AHL guys, they wouldn't have had to throw 8-9 rookies into the mix this year at this point in the season. Now, granted, it's great for them. They're getting big games, but they'd still be getting it down here too.
Could you imagine how many goals Seager would have in the ECHL?
Well, look at what Banel's got.
That's what I'm saying.
Like, and it's a confidence thing. Like, I don't know. it's so much different from this year from the way it's been in the past. And like I'm sure Waddy's probably like could send him down, right? But at the same time, like he's got to help himself. So
100%.
it's so
Todd's not helping him.
I don't get me started, Nick, because I don't understand. I don't understand the yeah. Anyways.
So I feel like the one thing we're missing here is I don't know how many contracts Grand Rapids could sign.
They don't have a roster limit.
They don't have a roster. They can sign as many contracts as they want.
Essentially, yes. I mean, you wouldn't want to go crazy
Right,
spending
right,
a ton of money,
Right.
but yes.
So I'm looking at Puckpedia. I'm looking at the Red Wings. They have 46 contracts signed out of 50, and ASP and NBN do not count towards those. They won't count towards those. So essentially, Detroit has 4 roster spots, that 4 contracts that they could sign. And I think that's where really the issue is, because I don't want the takeaway for this is like Marco Kasper shouldn't be in the NHL this year, or Dominic Shire shouldn't be in the NHL, or Austin Watson, or Elmer Soderblom, or
They've all earned their
who else.
shot.
Yeah, and I'm super happy for Marco's killing it this year. Like, super stoked about that. Elmer's playing really well up there. You sign Austin Watson to kind of float between the two teams, and then Shine was just kind of an unexpected surprise up there. So, like,
Still the best storyline of the season, Dominic.
Yeah, and I don't want to take anything away from those 4 guys at all, or even when they pulled up Lagesson, who was supposed to be there kind of to push Albert, but he's been kind of sitting on the bench. Lagesson is.
He has a few games. He's played a few games. Finally played a few games.
After you called Todd and had him, give him the talk. So I really think though those 4 other contracts, if you think about this too, is Marco started here, Elmer started here, Watson started here. We were supposed to have MBN here. He was supposed to start here, and he chose to go back overseas. So
wouldn't say supposed to. It was left up to the decision. Was left up
to him, but
the organization probably made it pretty clear they wanted him here.
Yeah, I mean, if you couldn't tell with all those the specialty jerseys, his name was on every single one of them this year. But moving on, and then you have Carter Mazer, who was out this year for the majority of the season, comes back, they call him up, and then he's hurt. So like you had all these people now, and this kind of transitions me into our next thing of playoffs. But if Detroit had signed 4 more people and they have the cap space to do it, either assign those guys here or assign those guys in the NHL, we would have had a decent team down here. Or those guys would have made it up to Detroit, and we could have signed 4 guys to be sent to Grand Rapids. From then not to sign any college guys or any of the international, like the Swedish Hockey League, like some of those guys are out, right? So, maybe bring back Luke Witkowski here in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I love it.
I know, but we can't.
I know.
Yeah, and on the other end is he plays defense, and we have like 20 defensemen, so we're not hurting there. So I think that's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you could look at how Grand Rapids was constructed, but at the same point, to defend Sean Horkoff or whoever makes these decisions, maybe it is Steve Yzerman, maybe it's Sean, maybe it's a combination of the two, and Dan Watson, who knows? I mean, we'll try to figure out these answers in the summer, but Detroit has 4 contracts that are available to sign. And I think that's where it really gets left is you had those, you could have used them, you could have signed them and sent them here, or Grand Rapids could have signed and sent them here or to Toledo, but there's no reason why we have 6. Our bottom 6 is basically guys that are maybe swimming. They're over their head. I don't know if those are the right words, but you have a lot of first-year players in this league on the bottom 6, and that's not going to give you success. It's going to give them a lot of experience. It's going to give them a lot of chances to develop, but it's also throwing them right into the deep end, and it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the players. Honestly, is the development. They're not going to get that when they're literally in a state of panic every time they're out there, kind of thing. Like you saw when they brought in like defensemen, they usually shelter these guys down to the 3rd or 4th line, rotate them in easily, and like Becker, they're just throwing him in. Rakowski sat for a little bit at the beginning of the season, then was finally able to get some playing time. We don't know why or what was going on with that. And then we see some guys that aren't performing that should be performing too. So it's that. I mean, in the beginning of the season, you saw Emil on the third line center. He was killing it. And now he's got to play first line winger because they just don't have the people. They don't have the depth.
And it's like you're kind of trading development for these guys for also their confidence, like attacking their confidence when you're out there. And it's a risky game to play with prospects. And you're spot on those roster spots too. When you think about it, they could have signed some 1-year deals. Like, could they have convinced Zarnik to stay another year? Hey, you're playing in GR. You're coming back up. Taro.
I think they went and made more money overseas.
They definitely
not
made
that
more
I didn't
money.
want Taro back. I don't want that to be the
right. He definitely went and made some more money. So did Austin. But I look around the league and you just see some past Griffins that are thriving within their AHL organizations. One I can think of right off the top of my head is Joe Hickett's defenseman, of course. So obviously that doesn't really play into this picture. But he's out in Ontario, just signed another extension with them and just thriving. Everybody loves Joe Hickett's. Griffins fans definitely love Joe Hickett's. But there's other guys around the league that have made their way through Grand Rapids for a season or two, and off they go. And they didn't get that next 1-year deal. And when you think about it and look at Grand Rapids, who's the only guy signed in the veteran status there, or two guys? You got Austin Watson and Dominic Shine. Those are the only two that we really have signed officially, I believe, right now for next season. Besides, I don't know what Snively and Dry's contracts are, if they were 1 year, 2 year. I can't remember.
One of them has 2 years.
One of them has 2 years. So
Watson's and Shine's are Detroit contracts.
They are Detroit
They'll
contracts.
slide down.
They'll slide back down and go back and forth and whatnot. And again, we want them to get that opportunity. You just wish that they would utilize those spaces to set us up for good AHL players that could also potentially be called up. Would be a big difference maker in this organization right now.
We're looking for those fringe NHL players like Joe Snively, Sheldon Dries. Like, those guys can perform while they're up there, and they're great AHL players. And those two guys are leading our team when Watson and Shine are out. Like, those are the guys we need.
I will say too, like, sometimes teams don't go to 50 because at the deadline, then that gives you some flexibility.
Right.
Which now we're past that, but that's just one thing I wanted to point out, that some teams don't go to that 50 number because it gives you a little extra flexibility to maybe take on a bad contract.
Well, they probably didn't have to. Some teams probably don't have to either because they've got such depth in their organization. We don't have that depth. We have kids, which are fine. Like, Washington has 47 contracts out of 50.
Well, and some of it too is like people get mad because Detroit's not further along, and it's like, look at Grand Rapids. It's all kids, man. Like,
all kids.
It's literally all kids. Like, it takes time.
While I'm looking at Washington, they have 6 players that can slide. So they technically have like 56 players that they have. We're just not that deep. We need to get deeper.
I expect more in the offseason for Grand Rapids, which will be a topic for the offseason, and hopefully we're a long way away from talking about that stuff. And I don't want this segment to be entirely doom and gloom. You got to remember. Depending on what happens with Detroit, Grand Rapids is going to get guys back. And when you think about the prospect of who we're going to get back, the only frustrating one that we're not going to get back is William Lagesson. I will never understand what Detroit did with that situation and why they did not move him on paper. I would love to be able to ask somebody at that higher up level what happened there, because at that point he hadn't played since I think early January and wasn't moved on paper to be able to come back to play in the playoffs here in Grand Rapids. Makes no sense. But you're going to get back Austin Watson. You're going to get back Dominic Shine. You're going to get back Elmer Soderblom. That's some talented freaking players you're going to get back into this roster.
MBN, ASP, probably. I think if the longer Schlechte goes, this is better for Grand Rapids.
You're probably right, because Detroit somehow is still flirting with a playoff spot in some people's eyes. I've already wrote it off as it's not happening.
Well,
they'll probably prove me wrong. But
the longer they go, the less runway Detroit has, and there's absolutely no reason to put him in a game that if you're already mathematically eliminated. What's the point? Like, just send him to the Griffins and he can get acclimated to playing on North American sheet for a few games. In the playoffs, maybe they go off. Next thing you know, you've got, 3 first-round picks on your team now with, 4, Cossa, like.
5, Jack. Come on.
Yeah.
Don't disrespect him.
Don't forget about Jack.
Yeah.
He's played games this
mean,
month.
I mean young talent. That's the future.
Jack's
And-
young compared to Talbot.
Yeah, you got a point there.
Well done.
I mean, you could essentially, like, down the middle go Nate, Ammo, or Ammo Nate, and then there's just so many endless options. It's weird.
There is.
It's funny how, like, 4 forwards can make such a difference.
Well, when you're talking about when you can only roster 12 of them, yeah, 4, that's a big difference. And I do want to hit on that point with ASP too. Like, if Detroit, when their season's done, has him play 1 game there so he can't come to Grand Rapids, tune in for that episode after that, because my rant will go on for at least an hour about what the heck are we doing.
That might be an
And it's not-
emergency pod.
It probably will. And it's not like we're saying send ASP to Grand Rapids to play here next year. No, we fully know, like, he probably will not be in Grand Rapids next year. It would take some bad stuff happening for him to end up here, or just mismanaged contracts and they have no choice but to put him here. But anyway,
I think we're going with that option, to be honest.
that's usually what it feels like recently. But ASP coming to Grand Rapids to close out the season, or just like the last game of the regular season and get in the playoffs, that's huge. That's huge for his development, whether you think those games matter to him or not. And those in his development, that 3-4 week period to be on North American ice before you head into the offseason, he'll know what to expect at the highest intensity possible in the American League before heading to off-season training. He'll know exactly what he's got to work on. He'll know what to expect with the speed of the game and how much a little space you have in North America on the ice. He'll learn a lot from that, whether you think he will or not. So, yeah, that's got to happen. Like, he can't go to Detroit. I'm sorry. This season.
I mean, he's played on this sheet of ice before.
Yeah, there's such a long gap between it, though. Like, you got to think, like, you got to have him set and ready to go. If you expect him to make the Detroit Red Wings roster next year, which I think everybody does, you want every added benefit you could possibly give him before that point. But back to what we were originally saying, the Griffins do have the potential to get a nice boost that some other teams in this division are not going to get. Like, Texas is not going to get a bunch of guys back from Dallas, because Dallas will probably make a pretty darn deep run in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
You sure about that? They're going to have to play Colorado in the first round.
We'll make a bracket and do that episode as the things are confirmed, but you'll be surprised by how I feel about that. The only teams that are really going to see that boost, Rockford will see a boost from Chicago. Nashville will see a boost. Milwaukee will see a boost from Nashville. Chicago, their relationship with Carolina is toxic, so we don't know what's going to happen there. The Griffins will get a boost. It's not as big of a boost as we may have hoped, and I know it's just really William Lageson's the only one kind of left out of that, and I know that might sound like not a big boost to some, but what he brought to this Griffins team was massive when he was here. So there is hope. It's just going to take some time, and all we can hope for in that time is that the Grand Rapids Griffins don't slide into that 4th or 5th spot in the division and have to play the best of 3 first round that the American League does. Nick's like, I don't know.
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, really, if you could get into the dance and your goalie gets hot, that's all it really needs, right? I mean,
We're lacking something there right now.
yeah, but if we're gonna get ASP and MBN, like, I think they make up for, and we get all of our other guys back.
Puck should be in your zone a lot less.
Yeah, Cossa could get hot and steal games and go on this crazy run.
Nick, I have my reason for concern with the team getting hot and going on a run, because we talked about some stats before we started recording over what the last 3 months have looked like for this Grand Rapids Griffins team. So yeah, I don't want to play in the play-in round. which thankfully we're not in the Pacific Division because the only the 1 seed gets to bye there. All the other teams, which is like 6 or 7 at this point in that division, play that play-in round.
You set me up so dirty for that.
You're welcome.
Full circle. Nick Williams stats, and I'm going to use them against you now.
Well, no, because we're going to talk about these stats because that's the valid reason. Everyone hears me weekly go, I don't want to play the play-in round. I don't want to play the play-in round. There's a reason for that. And in regulation over the last 3 months, we haven't done well. We've got some overtime wins, which are great, but that format changes as soon as the playoffs start. I don't want to be in that situation right now until we figure things out. We've got 9 games remaining to figure things out. Hopefully a week of practice worked some magic and the guys were able to get closer together, figure out what's going on. But yeah, there's valid reason to be concerned with what the past 3 months for the Grand Rapids Griffins have looked like.
I thought you said no doom and gloom. I thought you said hope.
It's
the hope that
not
kills us.
hope, it's nervousness. It's anxiety. It's all the above.
Travis, read the stats.
Oh boy, this is rough, guys. Like 8 regulation wins to 16 losses in what, Nick? 3 months?
3 months.
Back to January with 5 overtime shootout wins to 3 overtime losses, with 2 of those overtime shootout wins being shootout wins. So they're 3-3 in actual hockey games and that have ended in overtime. And they're, I'll just say it, bad. Lately.
These stats are all separate of each other. So it's not like we looked at regulation wins and losses. Then we looked at the games that they played in overtime. And then the games that they played in shootout.
Well, it's funny, so you think if they qualify for the playoffs, right, and not have to do the play-in BS because the participation playoffs, as I call it in the American League, happen, and if you do just, 4-4, 16, they got 16 losses, 8 wins, flip-flop that, you win the cup.
There you go. That's some positivity
for the day.
I think that math checks. Jesus.
Like, because here's what, again, the play-in round scares me, obviously, because of that. Like, that right there should scare all of us. But also where we sit right now, 3rd in the division, we don't have much home ice to play with there, right? And that might not be a bad thing. 15 wins and 16 losses at home this season compared to 18 wins and 11 losses on the road. Somehow we went from being one of the best home teams in the league last year to this year, not even close. Like, if we end up falling into the play-in, we need to fall to 5th in the division to be able to play in Rockford, because you'd assume you're playing Rockford, to start the play-in round.
I think they get home ice in the play-in round. That's my prediction. With how it's going right now.
Oh God!
I think they're gonna
put that out there.
I'm just being honest. Like,
That doesn't help us at all.
I know you want it to be happy-go-lucky, but look at the body of work over the last 3 months. What tells you they're gonna be better than what they've been with guys that aren't coming back immediately? Like, I'm sorry, I'm just being realistic. Like, it's just facts. Like, if you look at the numbers since January, you see this many losses. I'm sorry, but as of right now, ain't nobody coming to help. And if they can't figure out the solution from within, if they can ride the 500 wave and get into the playoffs, I don't think 500 gets them home. I don't think 500 gets them out of the play-in round. I think 500 puts you in the play-in round.
I mean, I've seen this started in January, at the end of January, beginning of February. I called this out. I said it's 1 win, 2 losses. That's how they've been playing. And then we went through all February the same, with all of March of it. And you guys all looked at me like I was some crazy SOB.
I mean, you are.
And here we are. Like, it just, these injuries, the call-ups have hurt us. It's just nobody stepped up. Waddy says it after every post game. Somebody in this room needs to step up. Team needs to step up. Next man mentality. Just it never happens. Nobody ever does it. I don't know who it has to come from. If it's the goalie, if it's I don't know, but it's.
Sounds like Nick just signed himself up for the pregame speech next home game.
Yeah. Like I don't even want to go to post game anymore because I feel like I know what he's gonna say to us about it. It's just something's got to change, and I think a lot of it too is like we talked about it in the chat is like just how they're entering the offensive zone and how they're playing offense. It's just not clicking. It's a lot of jump and chase. It's not holding the puck against the boards like we saw Marco do a lot last year. It's not holding the puck in. It's not carrying the puck in. Simon did it a lot last year. Ammo does it a lot this year. But you're just not seeing enough guys doing it. The guys you do see it's the Toledo lines, right? Like we call them the Toledo lines. That fourth
line. That fourth line's been great. Even in some of our worst games, that fourth line still somehow shines through every time.
They're competing. They've got to compete. That's what the coaches like to say.
That's because they know they're the bubble players.
Yeah.
And on a if you got 16 guys, 2 of them probably could come down here and dominate in the playoffs. Like, it's not likely at this point with how we'll get into this on the Toledo episode at some point, but like, I think max they get 1, and I think that 1's going to be Bell, not including Bednar. Like, and in a world where ideally they could have used 2, 3, but when that's your best line on a nightly basis, those guys are literally battling to stay in the lineup as guys start to come back.
Brandon, I think you and I can relate a lot to this. It's like we worked retail. We were the big guys, the bosses, the managers, and it's like, hey, we're shorthanded, and our boss is like, just figure it out till Christmas season's over, and then we've got help on their way. We're hiring 3 people are in the tunnel to get hired, and just keep it floating until this situation playoffs, till we can get Emmett, MBN, ASP, till we can get these guys. We just gotta float water till then, and maybe that's the message, because they don't have enough guys. They're not getting guys back from Detroit. They're not getting guys from overseas. It's just what else do you say to these guys in that position? It's just go out and try, and let's hold our own, and maybe this is the style that we have to change to. And it's not the style that we wanted to play at the beginning, like we were playing at the beginning of the season. Now we have to change style because we got different guys, we got different players. We're trying to hold water, as long as they can.
It sucks too, because the one thing that's hurt us the most recently, it's also one of the saddest things, is it's Mazer's injury. That hurts us way more than you might think it does, whether he was staying in Detroit for the rest of the season or not. Mazer's healthy in there. Austin Watson's still in Grand Rapids. Or Dominic Shine's back in Grand Rapids. One of those guys is back here.
Then you add him into the playoff roster, you'd have 17 forwards. I'm just saying, like, there's where your depth should have been at the beginning of the year. You should have that many guys to begin with.
So 9 games left. I want you guys' predictions. Travis, I think you already said yours. Let's have you repeat it because I forgot. What's the first round of the playoffs look like for Grand Rapids? Who are they up against, and what round are they in? Are they in the best of 5 or the best of 3?
Home best of 3 versus Rockford, and they're gonna play like what is it gonna be, like almost 20 games in the last 2 months against each other, like, or 20 games all season with like 10 of them being in the last 2 months.
Yep. Nick.
I don't really want to make it. I don't want to make a decision on this at all, because this division moves so much all the time. Like even over the weekend, it moved with us clinching. I just don't feel like Rockford is gonna pass. I don't know. These games this weekend, like we play them Friday and Saturday. They're huge games. I don't know. We play Wednesday as well.
Will you make
Chicago.
A choice?
No, I don't. I'm trying to stall because I'm trying to think. Because right now we're slotted for the 3rd spot, and we're playing Milwaukee that first round, a best of 5, which is very interesting. I can't foresee us slipping to the 5th spot. Yeah, I say we hold where we're at. 3rd, we play Milwaukee, best of 5, and hopefully we're on the road. And hopefully, no, we would have closed it. Oh yeah, hopefully it's best of 5, and we're on the road first. We close.
That
them
would
out.
be on the road first, best
Yep.
of 5 if we were playing Milwaukee in that first round there.
And we close them out on their ice.
That would be really refreshing compared to last year, and would be a lot of fun. A playoff series between those two is going to be fun either way. Like with how when the rosters are both full, how evenly matched they actually are. It's always fun, and you don't have Askarov finding his mojo in the playoffs or Troy Grosnick. You do have Matt Murray on the other end though, which he likes to beat the crap out of us in net essentially. I'm going to go with we somehow managed to hold steady. We're staying in 3rd. We're playing Milwaukee. Agreeing with Nick there. And we'll make it out of that first round. Second round, whole different ballgame. I have no clue what to expect at that point. But I do think they can somehow hold this down. I think it does, like you said, Nick, depend on this weekend. If you lose one or both these games to Rockford this weekend, you're playing the play-in round. I think this weekend kind of decides it.
Or this is the crazy alternative. This is like I'm going full Nick mode here. We
win out.
We upset Milwaukee. Rockford upsets Texas, and we play Rockford in the second round.
You're just assuming Chicago is just irrelevant in this conversation, and they don't matter at all.
with a best of 7 to where you see Rockford over 20 games this year. Just think about how crazy that would be.
We had that last year. We had our last out of our last 20 games, we played them like 13 times, I think. And we had to play them in the first. Was it? Yeah, it was first round.
Yeah,
Best of. So I mean, we got them.
And that went to 5 games.
We finished them on our. No, we finished them away. So
That went 5. That went 5.
We talked about going to Rockford, and we didn't. So yeah, I mean, it went 5, and then we had to play Milwaukee. So I could see it. I could see us. If we get these guys too.
This weekend decides it, bro.
I don't think this week. I don't want to go that far. I think these are big games, but I'm not going to say that these 2 games this weekend decide it. I think that's too much.
I think it decides it. That's just my opinion. That's my thought. When I look at the remaining teams we play on the schedule, I should say, sorry, I shouldn't say this weekend. I should say this week. You got Chicago at home Wednesday, Rockford at home Friday, Rockford on the road Saturday. And then you go to Cleveland, which hopefully we get a win there. We seem to play really well against them. So I'll take that. And then you got Texas coming right back to town. Back to back, Friday, Saturday. And then you go to Rockford for a Wednesday, Friday, and end the season on the road in Iowa on that Saturday.
That's going to be an ugly game, I feel.
Ben Simon.
I can paint the picture for you right now.
Ben Simon sends the Griffins to the play-in round.
Ben Simon got us into the playoffs with Iowa's loss, and he sends us straight to the freaking play-in round with that last game of the season.
And it saves his job. Watch.
He's the assistant coach.
They can still be fired.
I know, but it's not like this is on him. We just give him crap for that terrible last season the Griffins had.
They haven't been good since he's been there.
I want Ben Simon to know I'm not affiliated with these 2 crazy people.
Look, we give Ben Simon a lot of crap, but I've heard nothing but good things about him as a person and coach. So there it is. That Griffins roster was rough that year. It was rough.
It was, yeah. This is starting to remind me of that season a little bit.
Okay, settle down. That's not even close.
Oh, Wednesday, I felt that. I felt it Wednesday.
Here's where Brandon removes Nick from the room here.
I should be like,
before he says
Ben,
way too many out-of-pocket things.
are you here with us tonight?
Good night. Anyways, that's where I'm wrapping this one up. Let's end this show the right way here, of course, by thanking our sponsors, DraftKings and Everything Hockey Clothing Company. When you're betting with DraftKings, make sure you're using code THPN. And of course, when you're shopping at everythinghockey.com, use code WEST to save a few bucks off your order and support the show. And we also have to thank our Patreon subscribers as well. Without them, the show would not be possible. And those currently are...
We've got Randy, Alan, Derek, Elaine, Griffin, John in Florida, Lori, Michael Asante, Claire, and we have Regan, our newest member. And so there's actually been some good conversations over on Patreon, some good questions coming in. So if you haven't joined, join. Get in on some of these questions, get in on some of the other insights. You get all the bloopers, you get all the unedited episodes. You get a lot of, and we're giving away tickets for the rest of the season too.
That is true. So head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. I was wondering if Nick was going to tell you where to find it at, but that's where you find it at. And yes, Reagan is the newest one. We got to welcome Reagan onto the Patreon subscriber form. We got to come up with a name for these folks. We really do. So if when you're on Patreon there, let us know some suggestions for the name of the group of our Patreon subscribers. We got to welcome Reagan last week. Nick didn't show up for that one. So
I wasn't on last week's episode.
The Toledo one.
Okay. Yeah.
Who he claims he'll be on this week. So
I
I'm
will.
not sure. Yeah, I don't buy it at all. With that, everybody, thank you again for tuning in. Have a fantastic weekend. As always, go Griffins, go Walleye.
Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.